I never thought my own sister would be the reason I almost lost everything I built from scratch. But maybe I was too blinded by love to see who she really was. My name is Maya, and this is the story of how trusting my sister became the biggest mistake of my life. I grew up with my younger sister Tara in a small apartment in Chicago. We didn't have much, just 2 girls, 1 broken home, and a dream to make it out somehow. I was always the responsible one, the one who studied late, worked extra hours, and saved every dollar. Tara was different. She was charming, spontaneous, and always found an easier way around things. Despite our differences, I loved her more than anyone. When Mom passed away, it was just the 2 of us. I promised I'd always take care of her, no matter what. Years passed, and my life started to change. After a decade of long nights and endless rejection, I finally founded my own marketing company, Aurora Creative. It started small, but soon we were signing big clients and growing fast. I had a loyal team, and for the first time in my life, I felt proud. But then Tara came back into the picture. She showed up one afternoon at my office, wearing designer clothes, hair perfectly done, and a smile that reminded me of who she used to be. "Wow, Maya, you actually did it," she said, glancing around the office. "I'm so proud of you." I hugged her tightly. It felt good, having family around again. Over coffee, she told me her life hadn't been going so well. She'd lost her job, broken up with her boyfriend, and was struggling to make rent. And like the fool I was, I offered her a position right away. "Tara, why don't you come work with me? We'll figure something out. Family helps family, right?" Her eyes lit up. She smiled and whispered, "You really mean it?" I nodded. "Of course I do." I hired her as an assistant marketing manager. It wasn't an entry-level job, but I believed she'd learn quickly. At first, everything seemed perfect. Tara was charming with the clients, brought laughter to the office, and even started staying late to help with projects. Everyone loved her. I was proud. For once, it felt like life had given us both a happy ending. But slowly, things started to shift. I began noticing whispers in the break room whenever I entered. People stopped including me in small conversations. Emails I never approved were being sent from my account. And when I checked the logs, I found Tara had access to files she was never supposed to see. When I confronted her, she laughed. "Oh, come on, Maya. Don't be so paranoid. I was just helping out." Something about her tone felt off, like she wasn't talking to her sister, but to someone she thought she could outsmart. Weeks passed, and the distance between us grew. She started acting like she ran the place. Once I overheard her telling a client, "Yes, I make all the final decisions around here." When I called her out privately, she snapped, "Why do you always have to control everything, Maya? Maybe it's time you let someone else take charge for once." Her words hit hard. I tried to stay calm. "Tara, this company is my life. I built it from nothing. You can't just—" She interrupted coldly. "Nothing lasts forever, sis." The breaking point came on a Monday morning, the kind you never forget. We had a full staff meeting. Everyone was there, from interns to senior managers. I walked in ready to present a new campaign proposal. But before I could start, Tara stood up. Her voice cut through the room. "Before we begin," she said, "I have something important to announce." I froze. She walked to the front, holding a file. "This company has been suffering because of poor leadership decisions, and as the acting operations head—" She paused, glancing at me. "I believe it's time for a change." The room went silent. Everyone's eyes turned toward me. I felt my heart drop. Tara smirked slightly. "Effective immediately, I'm recommending Maya step down as CEO." I couldn't breathe. For a moment, I thought I misheard her. She wasn't just betraying me. She was trying to destroy me, in front of everyone. I looked at her, my voice shaking. "Tara, what are you doing?" She smiled sweetly. "Just business, sis. Nothing personal?" Those words shattered something inside me. She had crossed a line no sister ever should. And in that moment, as my team stared at me in stunned silence, I knew one thing for sure. This wasn't the end. It was the beginning of my revenge. I stood there frozen, surrounded by people who used to look up to me, now staring as if I'd already lost. My sister stood confidently at the front of the room, like a queen who had finally taken her throne. I could hear whispers spreading through the team. Is she serious? Wait, can Tara even do that? What's happening? But Tara didn't flinch. She looked at me with those same eyes that once begged me for help, now filled with cold ambition. The meeting ended in chaos. I walked straight into my office, shut the door, and locked it. My hands were trembling. My entire body felt numb. How could she? I sat down, staring at the desk ID spent years behind, the one ID earned with sleepless nights and endless sacrifices. And now, my own sister was trying to take it all away. She'd planned this. Every step. The charm, the helpfulness, the fake smiles, all part of her game. That evening, I stayed in the office long after everyone left. I opened her emails, the ones linked to company files, and what I found made my blood run cold. She had been secretly forwarding confidential documents to another firm, Solix Media, one of our biggest competitors. Client proposals, campaign drafts, pricing structures, all of it. She was feeding them my work. And worse. I saw the payment records. She was being paid for it. Tara wasn't just trying to take my position. She was selling me out. I remember whispering to myself, "You wanted to destroy me, Tara, but you just made the biggest mistake of your life." That night, something inside me changed. The pain turned into focus. The betrayal into power. I decided I wouldn't confront her. Not yet. If she wanted to play dirty, I'd learn her game and beat her at it. Over the next few weeks, I pretended everything was normal. I smiled, nodded in meetings, and let her believe she had control. Meanwhile, I started collecting proof, emails, messages, and internal reports. I even noticed something else. She was trying to convince the board that I was mismanaging company funds, using fake invoices and editing financial reports. She thought she could make me look like the villain, but I wasn't going to let her write my story. One afternoon, I overheard her talking to our HR head in the conference room. Her tone was calm, professional, too professional. "She's been emotionally unstable lately," she said. "I'm really worried about her decisions. Maybe it's time for a change in leadership." I wanted to burst in, scream, and call her out right there. But instead, I quietly recorded the entire conversation on my phone. Proof. One more piece for the puzzle. A few days later, I reached out to my friend Evelyn, who worked in corporate law. She reviewed everything I had, the emails, the payment logs, the recordings. After a long pause, she looked up at me. "Maya," she said softly, "this isn't just betrayal. This is corporate espionage. She could go to prison for this." I sat there, silent. My heart hurt hearing those words. Prison. For my sister. But then I remembered the meeting, her smirk, her words. "Just business, sis." No. She made her choice. I spent that night writing a letter. Not to her, but to myself. A reminder of who I was before all this pain. You built this company from nothing. You fought for every client, every dollar, every dream. Don't let her take what she didn't earn. By the time the sun rose, my tears had dried. I looked in the mirror and saw someone I hadn't seen in a long time. The real me. The next morning, I walked into the office with a calm I didn't recognize. Everyone noticed. even Tara. She glanced up from her desk, smiling that fake smile. "Morning, sis. Ready for another busy day?" I smiled back. "Oh, I'm ready." She didn't know what was coming, because while she thought she was building her empire, I was quietly building her downfall. I met privately with the company board later that week. I showed them the evidence, the emails, the recordings, the payments. I didn't cry. I didn't beg. I just let the truth speak for itself. The room fell silent when the last recording played, Tara's voice saying, "Once she's gone, we can take all her clients." The chairman leaned back and sighed. "Maya, this is serious. We'll handle it discreetly." I nodded. "No. Let everyone know the truth. She humiliated me publicly. I deserve the same justice." And that's when my revenge truly began. Because the next meeting, the one Tara thought she'd control, would become the moment she'd lose everything. The day of the meeting felt eerily familiar. The same conference room, the same faces, the same silence before the storm. Except this time, I wasn't the one trembling. I could see Tara standing near the front, confidently flipping through her notes, pretending to be calm. She thought this meeting was hers to run, that she'd finalize my termination and step into my place. But she didn't know that every person in that room had already seen the evidence. The chairman started, his voice heavy. "Before we begin today's agenda, there are some serious matters we need to address." Tara looked up, confused. "Serious matters?" He nodded. "Yes, regarding recent internal security breaches." I didn't move. I just sat there quietly, watching her. At first she looked curious, then uneasy. The chairman continued. "We discovered several confidential files sent from within our system to our competitors. We have traced the activity back to one employee's account." Tara's smile faded. Her hands froze over her papers. He turned the monitor toward the room, displaying email logs, timestamps, and transaction proofs. Every eye in the room turned to her. Tara stammered, I don't know what this is. There must be some mistake." That's when he played the recording. Her voice echoed through the room. "Once she's gone, we can take all her clients." The silence that followed was deafening. Her face turned pale. I finally stood up. "I wanted to stay quiet," I said softly. "But when you tried to destroy me in front of everyone, Tara, you left me no choice." She turned to me, her eyes wide with shock and fear. "Maya, please. You don't understand. I cut her off. "No, I understand perfectly. You used me. You lied to me. You stole from me. And you tried to humiliate me in the company I built." Her voice cracked. "I didn't mean for it to go that far." I stepped closer. "Then why did you do it?" Her lips trembled. "I was tired of living in your shadow," she whispered. "You had everything. The success, the respect. I just wanted to feel like I mattered too." For a second, my heart broke all over again. Because underneath that anger and greed was the same little sister I once protected. But it didn't change what she did. The board voted unanimously to terminate her, effective immediately. Security escorted her out while she kept pleading, crying, begging for me to stop it. "Maya, please. I'm your sister. Don't do this." I turned away. I couldn't bear to watch her leave like that. But I also couldn't save her this time, because she had already destroyed the bridge between us. After the meeting, the team gathered around me, some in shock, some in quiet support. A few even apologized for believing her lies. But I didn't blame them. Tara was always good at pretending. I spent the next few days cleaning up the mess she left behind, resetting passwords, rebuilding trust. But the hardest part wasn't repairing the company, it was repairing myself. Every time I walked past her empty desk, it hurt. Not because she was gone, but because she chose to leave in the worst way possible. One night, I found myself alone in the office again. the same place where this nightmare began. I sat there, staring at her old nameplate. Tara Williams, Assistant Marketing Manager. I held it for a long time before placing it inside a drawer. Not out of hate, but because I needed to move on. For the first time in months, I allowed myself to breathe. A week later, I got a message from her, a short text. "I'm sorry, Maya. I know I can't undo it, but I hope one day you'll forgive me." I stared at it for a while, then replied, "Forgiveness isn't the same as forgetting. Take care of yourself." And that was the last time we ever spoke. Months passed. Aurora Creative began to rise again, stronger, more united. Clients returned, the team grew closer, and I made sure no one would ever abuse my trust like that again. But I also learned something deeper, something painful but necessary. Sometimes betrayal doesn't come from enemies. It comes from the people you die for. And when it does, the hardest revenge isn't destroying them. It's surviving them. I looked out the window of my office one evening as the city lights flickered below. I whispered to myself, "She tried to take everything from me, but instead, she taught me how strong I really am." I smiled softly, because this time, I wasn't broken. I was free. But what I didn't know then was that my sister's story wasn't over. Because a few months later, she came back, and when she did, she wasn't the same person I once knew. 6 months had passed since that awful day. The company was thriving again, my peace was slowly returning, and I finally felt like I could breathe without that constant ache in my chest. I thought Tara was gone for good, maybe trying to rebuild her life somewhere far away. But fate had other plans. It was a rainy Thursday morning when she showed up. I was in my office, reviewing a client report, when the front desk called. Maya, there's someone here asking for you. She says she's your sister." My heart sank. I hesitated, staring at the phone for a long moment before answering. "Send her in." When the door opened, I almost didn't recognize her. Gone were the designer clothes and confident smile. She looked thinner, paler, her hair tied back loosely, her eyes tired. She stood there silently, clutching a small bag, before whispering, "Hey, sis." I didn't say a word. I just watched her. Finally, she spoke. "I know I shouldn't be here, but I didn't know where else to go." She sat down slowly, her voice trembling. "I lost everything, Maya. My job, my apartment. The company I sold your files to turned me in when they found out the deal could backfire legally. I almost got arrested. I had to leave the city for a while." Her eyes glistened with tears. "I know you hate me. You should. I hate myself too." For a second, the room felt heavy, filled with all the words we never said. I took a deep breath. "Tara, you didn't just hurt me. You betrayed every ounce of trust I had in you. Why would you even come back here?" She swallowed hard. "Because I needed to see you one last time, to say I'm sorry, and to tell you the truth." I frowned. "The truth? About what?" She looked down at her hands. "About why I did it." And then she said something that broke me all over again. "When Mom died, I overheard her talking to Aunt Carol on the phone before it happened. She said she was proud of you, that you were her only hope." Her voice cracked. "You were always the favorite, Maya, the one who could do no wrong. I spent my whole life feeling like I was just your shadow. When you offered me that job, I told myself I'd finally prove I was as good as you, maybe even better." Her tears fell freely now. But I lost control. I got greedy, and by the time I realized what I was doing, it was too late. I sat there in silence. Part of me wanted to yell at her, to remind her of everything she took from me. But another part, the older sister who once held her when she cried, just felt tired. I looked at her and said quietly, "Tara, I never wanted to compete with you. I just wanted us to make it out together." She shook her head. "I know, but I couldn't see that. I was too jealous, too angry." For the first time, I saw genuine remorse in her eyes. No manipulation, no fake tears, just regret. I sighed. "So, what do you want from me now?" She hesitated. "Forgiveness. Not today, not even soon. Just someday. I don't deserve it, but I hope you'll find it in your heart eventually." I leaned back, staring out the window. The rain was falling harder now, streaking down the glass like the past washing away. After a long pause, I said softly, "Forgiveness doesn't mean I forget what you did, but I'm done holding on to the pain. You don't get to live in my head anymore." Her lips trembled. "Thank you." We sat in silence for a while. Then she stood up and placed an envelope on my desk. "This is everything I took. The money, the deals, the contact lists. I gathered it all back. You can use it however you want." I nodded, still unsure what to say. She turned to leave, pausing at the door. "You're stronger than I'll ever be, Maya. Don't let anyone dim that again." And then, she was gone. When the door closed, I sat there for a long time, staring at the empty chair across from me. I didn't know if I'd ever fully forgive her. But in that moment, I realized something powerful. Revenge had given me justice, but forgiveness gave me peace. That night, I walked out of the office into the rain, feeling it wash over me. For the first time in years, I wasn't angry. I wasn't broken. I was finally free. From her, from the past, from the pain. But as I turned the corner toward my car, a black SUV slowed beside me. The window rolled down, and sitting inside was Tara. Her face was calm. Too calm. "Maya," she said softly, "there's something I didn't tell you." And just like that, the nightmare I thought was over began all over again. Tara's words hung in the air like a storm cloud. I froze, staring at her through the rain. "Something you didn't tell me?" I asked cautiously. Her calm smile made my stomach twist. "I made a mistake before," she said softly. "But not everything I did was selfish. There's more going on than you know." I narrowed my eyes. "Go on." She took a deep breath. "The company I sold your files to, they weren't just any competitors. They're part of a larger network trying to take Aurora Creative down, permanently. They approached me months ago, and I panicked. My heart raced. So all of this, the emails, the leaks, it wasn't just about you wanting my position?" She shook her head. "No. It was bigger. I made it personal, but it started as survival." I stared at her, trying to process her words. My mind went back to those months of paranoia, the whispers in the office, the near collapse of my company. And now, she was telling me it could have been even worse. Tara leaned closer, her eyes earnest. "I came back because I realized something important. I can't fix the past, Maya, but I can help you protect the future." I laughed bitterly. "You betrayed me. You tried to fire me in front of everyone. You stole from me. And now you expect me to trust you again?" Her voice was quiet but firm. "I don't expect you to trust me immediately. I just need you to hear me. We're running out of time. If I don't help you, Aurora might not survive." I felt a cold wave of fear wash over me. The thought of losing everything again made my hands shake. For the first time, I realized the stakes were higher than I ever imagined. That night, we met in my office. She laid out everything. Emails, threats, financial records, even proof that a few key clients had already been approached by the network. I watched her closely. Every detail she shared seemed precise, logical, undeniable. "I know it's hard to forgive me," she said finally, "and you don't have to. But I'm your sister, Maya. And right now, we need each other." I stared at her, the storm of anger, hurt, and distrust raging inside me. And yet, a small part of me knew she was right. If Aurora Creative fell, everything I built would be gone. Not just my career, but my identity, my dream. Over the next few weeks, we worked together. It wasn't easy. I stayed cautious, double-checking every move she made. But slowly, the old rhythm returned. We strategized, countered threats, and secured our clients. I watched her carefully, noting the subtle changes, the remorse in her voice, the honesty in her actions. I realized she wasn't the same sister who tried to destroy me. She had changed. Finally, the day came to confront the network. We called a meeting with all parties involved, their executives, legal teams, and our own counsel. Tara stood by my side. For the first time in months, I felt a strange sense of relief. When the meeting started, we presented the evidence, the files, the emails, and the recorded threats. Their arrogance quickly dissolved into panic as the truth came out. By the end of the day, every attempt to take Aurora Creative down had failed. The network was exposed, the clients returned, and I felt something I hadn't felt in a long time. Victory. Afterward, I turned to Tara. "You did well," I admitted quietly. She smiled, but her eyes held a hint of sadness. "I couldn't have done it without you," she whispered. I nodded slowly. "Neither could I. But don't forget, this doesn't erase what you did before. You still need to earn back trust, every single day." She nodded, tears forming again. "I will. I promise." Weeks passed. The company flourished. I regained control, stronger than ever, while Tara worked quietly, proving herself, rebuilding bridges, and slowly earning back the respect she had lost. I realized something powerful. Revenge alone had given me satisfaction, but collaboration, trust, and cautious forgiveness gave me strength. I also understood that betrayal can sometimes be a twisted form of love, a desperate, misguided attempt to compete for attention, recognition, or survival. One evening, as I walked through the office, I noticed Tara sitting at her desk, quietly working. I paused and smiled to myself. She wasn't perfect. She never would be. But she had changed. And somehow, that was enough. Because in the end, the greatest revenge isn't destroying someone who betrayed you. It's rising above it, stronger, wiser, and unbroken. I looked out the window, watching the city lights sparkle. I whispered softly to myself, I survived her betrayal. I survived her lies. And I walked away stronger than ever. And for the first time in years, I truly felt free. Months turned into a year, and life slowly returned to a steady rhythm. Aurora Creative was no longer just a company. It had become a symbol of my resilience. Every client, every campaign, every team member reminded me of what I had fought for, and what I had survived. But the most important lesson wasn't about business. It was about life, trust, and the people we call family. Tara had stayed on after the ordeal, but our relationship was cautious at first. Every conversation, every shared task was carefully measured. We were sisters in name, but we had to rebuild the bond that was shattered. It wasn't easy. I would be lying if I said I never thought about that Monday morning, the meeting where she tried to fire me in front of everyone, or the emails she forwarded to competitors, or the deals she sabotaged. But holding on to that anger would have chained me forever. Instead, I chose to focus on rebuilding trust and my own sense of power. One evening, I found myself sitting in the empty office, reflecting. I remembered the tears, the anger, the feeling of betrayal that had consumed me. I remembered the dark nights I spent plotting revenge. And I realized something important. Revenge alone is hollow. Justice matters, yes. Holding someone accountable is essential. But true strength comes from rising above, not from watching someone else fall. I reached out to Tara that night, not to forgive her fully, that would take time, but to open the door a little. I know you're trying, I said softly. And I see it. I just need time. She smiled, relief evident in her eyes. Thank you, Maya. That means more than you know. It wasn't perfection. It wasn't a fairy tale ending, but it was real. And for the first time, I felt a sense of closure. Over time, Tara proved herself. She worked hard, showed loyalty, and slowly regained the trust of the team. I still watched her, of course. Old habits die slowly. But the fear and anger had diminished. I realized that people make mistakes. Even the people we love most. And sometimes, the way they respond after those mistakes shows who they really are. Tara had chosen to come back, to admit her wrongs, and to help fix what she had broken. It wasn't perfect redemption, but it was a start. And I had learned something invaluable about myself. I was stronger than I thought, wiser than I had been, and unbroken, despite the betrayal that could have destroyed me. I had survived one of the most personal attacks I could imagine, and instead of letting it ruin me, I had turned it into strength, resilience, and even compassion. Looking back now, I realize betrayal comes in many forms, sometimes subtle, sometimes shocking, sometimes from the people we hold closest to our hearts. It can shatter trust, shake confidence, and make you question everything you believe in. But it also teaches something vital. Your value is not defined by what others do to you. Your strength is measured by how you respond, and your peace comes from learning to rise above, no matter how deep the wound. I still see Tara from time to time. We talk, we work together, and sometimes, just sometimes, we laugh like we used to as kids. It's not the same as before. It never will be. But it's real, and that's enough. I often think about that day she tried to fire me in front of everyone. I think about the fear, the anger, and the sense of helplessness. And then I smile, because that day, while it tried to break me, ended up shaping me. It taught me to fight, to survive, and to forgive, slowly, cautiously, but genuinely. And most importantly, it reminded me that, even when betrayal cuts deepest, it cannot define your story. Only you can do that. I walked out of the office that evening, the city lights glowing warmly. For the first time in years, I felt fully free. Free from fear, free from anger, free from the past. I whispered softly to myself, I lost nothing that mattered, and I found myself in the process. And with that, I knew, no matter what came next, I would always rise. The weeks after Tara's return were a strange mix of tension and cautious hope. Every day, I reminded myself to stay alert, to watch for signs of betrayal. But at the same time, I couldn't ignore that she was trying, really trying, to make amends. Her work ethic changed. She stayed late without being asked. She double-checked her reports and even apologized publicly to some of the staff she had misled. It wasn't perfection. She stumbled occasionally, forgetting protocols or making minor errors. But she was committed to proving herself. I realized that trust, once broken, isn't something you can demand. It has to be earned, every day, and I decided to give her that chance, carefully, cautiously, with my eyes wide open. Aurora Creative was thriving again. We signed new clients, retained old ones, and even expanded into new markets. The company had survived a storm that could have destroyed it, and emerged stronger than ever. Tara and I often worked side by side in the office. Sometimes we would argue, old patterns resurfacing, tension lingering. But gradually, those arguments shifted from hostility to honest conversations. One afternoon, I found myself laughing at something she said, and it felt normal. I hadn't realized how much I missed the sister I once knew, the one I used to protect, the one I hoped still existed under the betrayal and lies. I also noticed something else, a sense of inner strength I hadn't felt before. The betrayal, the attempted humiliation, the theft, it had all left scars. But those scars were no longer weaknesses. They were reminders of what I survived. I started mentoring younger employees with more patience, more compassion. I handled negotiations with calm instead of fear. I led my company with clarity instead of doubt. One evening, Tara stayed late in the office. She came to my desk and said softly, "Maya, I want to thank you for giving me a second chance. I don't take it for granted." I looked up at her. "It's not easy. I'm still cautious, and you need to keep proving yourself every day." She smiled, a little sheepishly. "I will, I promise." I nodded. There was a moment of silence, a quiet understanding passing between us. It wasn't the sisterly bond I remembered from childhood. It wasn't perfect, but it was something real. Weeks later, I reflected on everything that had happened. I remembered the shock of that first betrayal, the Monday morning meeting, the whispers, the public humiliation. I remembered the anger, the tears, the nights spent planning revenge. I remembered the fear of losing everything I had built, and I realized something profound. Betrayal teaches you the value of resilience. It teaches you to trust cautiously, but also to trust yourself more. It forces you to confront your limits, and then surpass them. Tara and I never became the sisters we once were. We never returned to the carefree bond of our youth. But we created something stronger, a partnership built on accountability, honesty, and mutual respect. The experience changed both of us. She learned humility and responsibility. I learned strength and forgiveness. And together, we rebuilt what had been nearly destroyed. Standing in my office one late evening, I looked out at the skyline. The city lights glimmered, reflecting in the glass, mirroring the resilience and growth I felt inside. I whispered softly to myself, "I survived betrayal. I survived loss, and I emerged stronger than ever." Because that was the truth. No one could take my strength. No one could erase the lessons I had learned. And no one could stop me from rising, again and again. Tara walked by my desk, giving me a small nod. I nodded back. It wasn't love, it wasn't forgiveness yet, but it was peace, and sometimes that's enough. From that moment on, I promised myself, never let betrayal define me, never let fear control me, and never let anyone, even family, dim my light. I had survived the storm, and now I was ready to soar. It had been over a year since the day Tara tried to fire me in front of everyone. Aurora Creative was thriving, stronger than ever, and for the first time in a long time, I felt a deep, steady sense of peace. The betrayal still stung. I would never forget it, but I no longer felt defined by it. I had survived, and in surviving, I had grown in ways I never imagined. Tara and I had found a delicate balance. We weren't the same sisters we once were, and we probably never would be. The trust we had lost couldn't fully return, but she had proven she could change, and I had learned that people can be more than their worst mistakes. I watched her one afternoon, working diligently at her desk. Her focus reminded me of how far we had come. Not just as business partners, but as survivors of a storm that could have destroyed everything. I realized something crucial. Betrayal is not always about hate. Sometimes it's about fear, insecurity, or the desperate need to be seen. And sometimes it's about teaching you who you truly are. I thought about that fateful Monday morning. The humiliation, the whispers, the smirk on her face as she tried to take my place. At the time, it had felt like the end. But looking back now, It was the beginning of everything I had become. I had learned patience. I had learned strategy. I had learned that strength isn't just about power or revenge. It is about resilience, clarity, and the courage to rise above the hurt. One evening, as the office lights dimmed and the city skyline shimmered in the distance, I sat at my desk, reflecting. I thought about my journey, the fear, the heartbreak, the anger, and finally the empowerment. I whispered softly to myself, I survived betrayal. I survived lies. I survived the person I trusted the most, and I walked away stronger than ever. For the first time, I felt truly free. I also realized that revenge, as satisfying as it can feel in the moment, is never the final answer. Justice mattered, yes. Holding Tara accountable was necessary. But the real victory was reclaiming myself, my confidence, and my life. I didn't need her apology to heal. I didn't need her presence to feel complete. I needed only to trust my own strength. And that I did. Tara and I occasionally work together now, cautiously and respectfully. We shared tasks, coordinated campaigns, and sometimes even laughed. Small, honest moments of connection. It wasn't perfection. It wasn't a return to the innocence of childhood. But it was real. And sometimes, that's enough. Looking back, I realized this. Betrayal can come from anyone, even the people you love most. It can cut deep and leave scars that never fully disappear. But it cannot take your courage. It cannot take your resilience. And it cannot take the strength you discover within yourself when the world tries to break you. I rose from my chair and walked to the window. The city lights sparkled below, reflecting the journey I had endured, the pain, the struggle, and the triumph. I smiled softly and whispered one last time. I survived. I endured. I learned. I rose. And I am stronger than ever. For me, that was the true ending. Not revenge, not fear, but strength. And with that strength, I knew I could face anything life threw at me.